The Ice Age was one of the most transformative periods in Earth's history, altering the climate, shaping landscapes, influencing evolution, and determining the course of human civilization. But how did it all begin? The Ice Age wasn't a single event, but a series of glacial and interglacial periods that stretched over the last 2.4 million years. Scientists believe that a combination of factors triggered this global freeze. Changes in Earth's orbit, a decrease in greenhouse gases, shifts in ocean currents, and even massive volcanic eruptions. As a result, temperatures dropped dramatically, and glaciers began to expand across North America, Europe, and Asia. At its peak, enormous ice sheets, some over 2 miles thick, covered nearly a third of the planet. The world looked nothing like it does today. Vast stretches of tundra replaced forests, and grasslands turned into frozen wastelands. Sea levels dropped by more than 300 feet, exposing land bridges that connected continents. The most famous of these was the Bering Land Bridge, which allowed humans and animals to migrate from Asia to North America. Meanwhile, giant Ice Age animals, or megafauna, ruled the planet. Woolly mammoths, saber-toothed cats, giant sloths, and enormous prehistoric bison roamed the icy landscapes, perfectly adapted to the harsh climate. But for early humans, survival was an unimaginable challenge. They had to contend with freezing temperatures, scarce food supplies, and dangerous predators. Those who endured did so by developing advanced tools, learning to sew warm clothing from animal hides, and perfecting their hunting techniques. The mastery of fire was crucial, not just for warmth but for cooking, warding off predators, and later social bonding. Some of the most significant cultural advancements of early humans, such as cave paintings, early forms of language, and the development of tribal communities, may have emerged as a response to these harsh conditions. The Ice Age wasn't a continuous freeze. Instead, it cycled between glacial and interglacial periods. During warmer phases, the glaciers partially melted, allowing plant life to flourish again and animal populations to expand. But each time the ice advanced again, life had to adapt or face extinction. These constant changes forced early humans to migrate across vast distances, spreading different populations to various parts of the world. Genetic evidence suggests that modern humans evolved and spread globally in response to these environmental pressures, shaping the diversity of human societies we see today. As the last ice age came to an end roughly 12,000 years ago, the world underwent a dramatic transformation. The melting glaciers poured fresh water into the oceans, causing sea levels to rise rapidly. Entire land masses disappeared beneath the waves. Once thriving migration routes like the Bering Land Bridge were lost forever. The warming climate allowed forests to expand, grasslands to flourish, and rivers to swell. However, many Ice Age creatures, including the woolly mammoth and saber-toothed cat, couldn't adapt to the changing environment and went extinct. The end of the Ice Age didn't just reshape the planet, it also shaped human civilization. As temperatures stabilized, humans abandoned their nomadic ways and began settling in one place, giving rise to agriculture. The ability to grow crops and domesticate animals led to permanent settlements, trade, and eventually the first great civilizations. Without the Ice Age forcing humans to adapt, migrate, and innovate, the course of human history might have been entirely different. Even today, we see the lasting effects of the Ice Age. The Great Lakes, fjords of Scandinavia, and vast tundras of Siberia were all carved by ancient glaciers. The genetic diversity of modern humans was shaped by the migrations caused by the Ice Age. In many ways, our world exists as it does because of the extreme conditions our ancestors endured. It was a time of struggle, adaptation, and resilience. A chapter in Earth's history that paved the way for everything that followed. What if the Ice Age had never happened? What would the world be like? What would await us? Where would humanity go? If the Ice Age had never happened, the world would have taken a drastically different path. The landscape we know today would have evolved in a completely unique manner, with far-reaching consequences for humanity, animal life, and even the planet itself. Without the long, intense cold that defined the Ice Age, our ecosystems and climate would have remained warmer, and the natural course of evolution would have followed an entirely different trajectory. Without the Ice Age's freezing temperatures, Earth would have avoided the massive glaciations that reshaped entire continents. Vast ice sheets, which once covered the northern parts of North America and Europe, would have never advanced, leaving these regions in their current state without the vast, inhospitable frozen tundras that once defined them. The landforms we now associate with glacial activity, giant valleys carved by moving ice, fjords and mountain ranges, would have looked very different. The flow of rivers, the shape of coastlines, and even the distribution of forests and deserts would have all been altered. One of the most profound effects would have been the evolution of life itself. The Ice Age played a crucial role in shaping the types of animals and plants that thrived. Without it, mammals like the woolly mammoth, saber-toothed cats, and giant ground sloths may have never existed, or if they did, they would have evolved into very different species. These large megafauna were perfectly adapted to the cold, and their absence would have left a vacuum in the ecosystem. Predators like saber-tooths might not have existed at all, as the smaller prey populations might not have needed to evolve such powerful hunters. The food web would have evolved in a less extreme direction, with more balanced ecosystems of medium-sized animals and plant life instead of the giants that roamed the Ice Age. Humanity, too, would have faced a very different reality. Early humans likely would have had to deal with a warmer world, one with fewer large mammals to hunt and more competition for resources. The migration patterns of early human populations would have been affected. Without the glaciers and ice sheets, the Bering Land Bridge would not have formed, meaning the human migration from Asia to North America may never have happened. This would have drastically altered the cultural and genetic development of indigenous people on the American continent. The spread of human culture, language, and technology across the globe would have been significantly delayed. Agriculture, which began around 10,000 years ago during the warming period that followed the Ice Age, might have had a different timeline. Without the glacial melt and the changing climates that followed, humans might have struggled to transition from a hunter-gatherer lifestyle to an agricultural one. The fertile lands that emerged from the retreating glaciers, making room for the first civilizations to rise, might not have existed in the same way. Early agricultural societies might not have been able to establish themselves in the fertile crescent of Mesopotamia, for example, and the growth of cities, trade, and empires could have been severely delayed. Moreover, the absence of the Ice Age would have resulted in a different distribution of resources. The rise of modern civilization, based on agriculture and the domestication of animals, might have been much slower without the ecological changes triggered by the Ice Age. The domestication of animals like horses, cows, and sheep might have happened later, and the development of technologies like the wheel, writing, and complex societies might have been pushed far into the future. Environmental changes would have also been significant. The absence of the Ice Age would have meant a lack of the drastic fluctuations in sea levels, which meant no mass flooding of coastlines as glaciers melted. Many of the world's coastlines may have looked similar to how they are today, without the dramatic rise in sea levels. Coral reefs, like the Great Barrier Reef, might have had a different rate of development and expansion, and coastal ecosystems would have been more stable without the rush of glacial water disrupting life in the oceans. In terms of global warming, without the Ice Age and its eventual end, the Earth may have faced a different trajectory. The cooling effects of the Ice Age helped keep temperatures relatively stable for thousands of years. But without that natural cycle, the Earth's warming might have been more gradual or perhaps even faster. We might have reached the state of climate change that we are experiencing now much earlier, and humanity might have had to adapt to hotter, more arid conditions sooner. Instead of the Ice Age being a historical event, it might have been a prolonged shift in Earth's climate that stretched over thousands of years, with unpredictable consequences. Overall, without the Ice Age, the development of life, the course of human history, and the global environment would have unfolded in ways that we can only imagine. The world we live in today would be completely different, and many of the major historical events and advancements that we associate with the rise of civilizations and the modern world might have never occurred, or they might have taken a different form in a very different world. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more fascinating stories about history's greatest figures and events.